Freddie, Olivia, Maggie, Moses and me. 5 bedrooms, no living room, but a rather sizable kitchen that has French doors onto our garden. Garden requires no maintenance, the landlord covered it in stones forever ago. Olivia has the ensuite, because she's a fucking princess, and the rest of us share one bathroom, toilet, bath with shower overhead, sink, and an entire country supply of air freshener. Freddie's deposits require it the most, but he also, bizarrely, seems the most adverse to using it. Prick. $750 per calendar month, including bills. New Cross. Well, we say New Cross, but it is definitely closer to Lewisham. But New Cross sounds more in the swing of it, I think. Maggie, Moses and I moved in first. Straight off the bat from uni. The gang and the big smoke, here to get our name in lights. The fact that we are, respectively, an actuary, a teacher and a barista did not hinder our movie-tinged fantasies in the slightest. Here, in amongst the hustle and bustle, we were going to thrive. 3-bed flats are ridiculously expensive, so we found the 5-bed and then we found Freddie and Olivia. So that's us, the happy house share. Except, I hate them all so fucking much. Every damn day I dream of moving back in with my parents, and then I remember that my parents live in Cosham, Portsmouth, which is significantly even more of a shithole than Lewisham, London. I fall asleep to the sweet, sweet din of Moses' shitty electro music, dreaming of my own place. But within that dream, I also have to make myself a middle-aged white man with a bank account in Switzerland, as that's the only way it can feel like a tangible reality. Every now and again, to amuse myself, I search how much I need to pay for a 1-bed flat. Not studio, because I personally don't like shitting where I eat, so a 1-bed flat in South East London, Zone 2, not too much to ask. $1,400 per calendar month plus bills. So, with my lovely little salary of 19k, I don't think this is going to happen for me anytime soon. I don't get Olivia. Olivia, professional influencer, not a real job, is currently living off Daddy's trust fund and could most definitely afford to live alone or in a much nicer house, so why is she choosing to be incarcerated with us in ours? I don't get it. I genuinely think she was sent here to test me. Maggie works long hours and is really fucking tired, and I get that, I do. But we moved to this mental, dirty city together and she's just sort of left me to it. Like, she has to work and study and shit, and I get that, but she just sort of, she comes home, she drinks tea, and then she just exists within her room. I miss her, even when she's there. Freddie shits. There, that's Freddie's bit. He shits. Legit, I have no idea what else he does. He just shits. And our landlord is a fucking psychopath. The entire bloody house was done up on mates' rates, but by the standard of the work and the rapid way our house is falling apart, I'm going to hazard an educated guess that his mates are fucking dumb. I'd probably feel less murderous if the twat's actually clean, but no. God forbid there should be any less than 1 billion dirty plates in the sink at any one time. And when one does do their washing up, they act as if they've just shat gold and text the house WhatsApp group, lovingly titled number 186 bitches, to let everyone know how disgusted they are with the 2 plates left over, which they could have just washed up there and then. Happy house shares are a myth. Having said that, and I am not undercutting my point, I mean everything I have just said, but sometimes London can be a bit magic, but a bit much, and I'll get overwhelmed and so insanely lonely. I think I might become a recluse or just give up and do something in admin back in Portsmouth. I'll come through our fucking rotting door and I will feel empty. Like genuinely empty. And then Maggie will ask me if I want a tea. And Olivia will sashay past wearing something bonkers and excellent. And Freddie will give me a cuddle. Because he wants to bang me, but he is always quite gentlemanly about it, so. Moses, for once, will keep it down. The London chaos is within my little corner of the city. Within my four walls, but in here it's suddenly manageable. There's bustle and warmth and 4 fucking weirdos that I love unconditionally. And that's when I get it. I'm home.
Been a while since I had a client breakdown in my office. I'm trying to unstick 2 folders that have somehow fused together in the drawer, and meanwhile she's quizzing me about ways others in her family can access the memory archive. By the time I can lift my head from off the floor, she's sort of stopped. You can see when someone's about to cry. It's not sudden, it's transitional. Many little changes. And never think that someone glows red when they're about to burst. They go pale. Like, for a moment they aren't alive. Well, anyway, the poor dear, she just started to cry. Like real tears were coming from her eyes. She slapped her hand against her mouth. And I don't mean to be awful, but I thought she was about to be like actually sick in my office. And then she said, why did she have to go so young? Well, I had to rush out and get someone. It sounds a bit unethical, leaving her alone in my office by herself, having an extraordinary reaction to whatever set her off. It was not very honourable. It's strange. We're a medical firm. It is in our nature to interact with fragile, scared people. They're losing so much. So you'd think, at least, we'd have an in-house counsellor. We're salespeople. In the rare instance that we face a powerful obstacle like this, everyone goes apeshit. Henry's in the staff room, hurriedly preparing a tea. Zoe's pacing, desperately trying to end a call. Dan's tapping his collarbone. And Frankie's collecting tissues from the ladies. And she turns to me and she says that she wonders whether she can turn back time to when she wanted to be a dancer. We got a call from a woman. 55? Well-spoken. We assumed local, clearly knew of us. She'd just been given some bad news by her doctor. We don't dig for specifics up front. 94% of our clients are early onset familial Alzheimer's disease cases. Said she didn't want her stories to die. What we offer our clients is extraordinarily advanced. We perform a deep scan of the brain and we're able to find memories, like trillions of them, like atoms in a galaxy. And then we're able to construct a digital archive, a simulated reconstruction. They're for the clients. We even present them in neat packages. It's for them, or for their families, maybe. People tend to put their life savings into it. So, back in my office, we're all packed in there, and I asked everyone to leave, and the woman was slowly able to collect herself, and she apologised. I don't think I said anything. And she started telling me about Valerie. She was our young girl. Incredibly bright. Only child, too. And it was one of those days when everything was just happening at once. The woman was saying delivery's coming, appliances not working, washing out in the rainstorm, phone calls being missed. And Valerie tried to offer some help, and Mother was quite defiant and said no. So Valerie decided to give her mum some space and take a walk. The woman said Valerie was in the room, in my office, white, distended, listening to us. That's when the poor woman snapped. Memories, she mused. As soon as one comes through, the rest are soon to follow. And in a weird, silent moment, I started smiling. And I had a weird trickling feeling inside my spine, and I started saying, everything we do in life is just a reaction to our memories. You have a nice day at the beach when you're a child, you end up living by the sea when you're older, you have an upsetting evening with a friend, and you become anxious of anyone who enters your life. And everything is connected somehow in this spider web of connections, and they're so vast that we can only see a small part of it every time we think about it. And that's why we're so drawn to what it would be like if we'd done things differently. But honestly, if you can't comprehend your personal chain of memories in any way imaginable, then are you really you? She asked if she could phone her husband, and he came sometime later. He had no clue where she was. And they left. And I stood in the foyer for some time as his car turned the corner. And I explained what I said to Frankie. Well, she's frightfully ardent when she's had her lunch. You wonder if she's wanting to find a way of changing the past, she hypothesised, as if to rephrase her actions. Anyway, I got home 30 minutes ago, and I stretched across the floor here by the sofa, and I looked up at the ceiling. And I remembered my own mum. When I asked her whether she thought what I was doing was honourable, we can't change memories. We can only witness them over and over until the magnetic tape finally erodes, and then we can't get them back.
Sometimes, I mean all the time, but let's just say sometimes because it's less, Sometimes I worry a bit, a lot. I worry about paying my rent. I worry about my sister. I worry about the bananas going bad in the bowl. Oh. I worry about my fingers falling off. Well, not even all of them, just one. Because one would be bad enough. Would it hurt? Would it grow back? How long would it take for me to notice? I'd hope immediately, but you never know. Because I might be too busy worrying about if I took the right tone in my reply to his email, about the noise from the downstairs neighbours, about the FTSE 100. And while I'm worrying about all of that, the hollow where my finger once was will get infected and rot until my whole hand turns green and snaps off, which will make losing just one finger pale in comparison. Well, one thing I've never worried about, and this might surprise you, I've never worried about a sinkhole opening up under my feet. Well, more for me, because out of all the things, the many, many things, it actually happened. One minute I'm standing, rummaging through my bag looking for my keys, which I probably lost or dropped and someone's found and is now burglaring my flat or hiding in the wardrobe ready to murder me. I'm scouring under paper hankies and digging through crumbs when the ground in front of me disappears. Gone. It's surprisingly quiet, like an inhaled and I glance down to see the toes of my trainers are now poking out over the edge of the end of the world. But I didn't fall in. I didn't even wobble. You'd think I would. I'd think I would. But I didn't. So that's something, isn't it? One less thing to worry about. I feel better. A bit. A lot.
It started in the suburbs. We couldn't quite say who it was. That would be too easy. It wouldn't be fair. There's the inner city kids who got richer and moved out to start families amongst the green. They thought they were doing good, and they were, but only for themselves. Poverty becomes a memory when you've got a garden, instead of a rickety old balcony littered with dank, disposable barbecues and half-broken bikes. And when truths become memories, they become concepts. And concepts are easier to deny. You can fashion your own narrative now, one where your struggle makes you the hero, and your success makes you king, or queen, or somewhere in between. And everyone you left behind just didn't quite have what it takes to make it out of the grey. But these are the victims who found their way out. Perhaps then they should get a pass. Rather them than the high-tax thieves who always knew they'd settle on the outskirts of where all the action is. Standing on the edge of a fishbowl, ready to reach out a grubby paw and take a swipe as and when they please. They head in Monday to Friday and watch the football with the boys on the weekends. Sometimes with the inner city boys who made it outside. They're almost the same. All equal on the surface. But the struggle wasn't quite as real to them. These are the men and women who stick to what they know. They're the ones the others try to emulate, and they know it. And so the great evolution begins. The slow sink into conservative whiteness. The blue washed out until it's just beige. The most boring of convictions, the kind only the lazy could ever define. You go about your day, nice enough, being polite to strangers and buying the tramp in the street a sandwich a week, and always giving up your seat to the woman with a baby on board badge precariously pinned above her bump.
You pretend to care about politics, but politics means self-interest, and because the free market helped you, you pretend it can help everyone. You forget the role that chance plays in every aspect of your life, and that suits you. Because the truth is far too scary to let in. And so every 5 years, and sometimes in between, you trot yourself down to the polling booth and you put an X in a box and you pat yourself on the back for changing the world. But you'd never take responsibility for the darkness. You'll bask in the yellow of sun, but never in the deep blue-black of the cold. You couldn't possibly hold yourself accountable when Danny down the street went to hospital for hypothermia because she couldn't afford to pay her gas bill because the council decided she just wasn't the right kind of ill. You'll happily buy a big issue from Bill because group accountability means a couple of bucks here and there instead of a system that keeps poor people off the streets. You never choose to close your local library. It's just what needed to be done. Besides, nobody reads books anymore. And anyway, you can just buy them online. Everyone has the internet. Right? The deficit is your master. Not that you know what it means. It's just some man in a suit said it was important and said that the slightly scruffier man was an idiot because he had a different kind of beard. Doesn't he know appearances matter? You make up your mind on someone within 10 seconds of meeting them. And you knew he was trouble anyway when you saw him posing with some hippie from Kent. When the papers called him a communist, you knew that was the last straw. Because the government is there to serve you. And I mean you as you. Not the general, you. Because you are a good person. And you play by the rules, and you pay your taxes, mostly, and you give to charity, and you work hard for that paycheck, and you deserve that Mercedes you bought, because you are a good person. And it's not your fault the world isn't fair, because it isn't fair for everyone, but it should be fair for you, because you'd never hurt a fly. And you just want to eat your bloody blue beef burgers and drink your full-fat milk and know that you are the good guy. You are not the problem in this world. It's us and them, and you and them, and you and we and us and Britain first. First, and on top, and on our own. You are the hero of your story. And so you sidle out into the street and you walk into that polling place and you wait in line like a good little lemming. And you put that cross in that box and you smile and you wait and you really made a difference. You followed your heart. You changed the world, you good, democratic little boy. And you always knew that when it came down to it, you'd be another good little lemming following the rest off the cliff. And you were the last one left, but you still went. And it wasn't your fault. When it all went down and they started shooting, the rioting, the looting, the death, the shooting, it wasn't your fault. You were just doing what you were told. You aren't to blame for the shooting, the rioting, the looting. You couldn't have known. They didn't tell you this could happen. They said it was about freedom and trade and the world. You hold no responsibility for the death, the shooting, the rioting, the looting. You're not the one in charge here. You hold no power. You're just a little grey suit in the big, vast greenness of the suburbs.
A state of neglect or oblivion, an uncertain period of awaiting a decision or resolution, an intermediate state or condition. Knees bent, back arched, chin to the floor. You're hysterical, triumphant, golden, a golden arch. Continuously I am floored by you. With one swift John Wick flip, I taste the laminate. As my body dips, I am led by my hips, as are you. The KLEINE is so sensitive, spooked by a whisper. If it senses just a possibility of touch, it strikes the floor. The tip of my nose, that ring on your brow, that bun in her hair, strike, strike, strike. With every year my body bows, a circle cut off too soon. Missing its eternal loop, it's left with the only option of going back on itself. Eyes to the ground, the only participant I see is me. Do you limbo? This state of flux is the uncertainty of what should be done next. I'm in flux. Tell me you're in flux. During our 50 minutes, he asked me what I was waiting for. What is the resolution I pivot my hips towards? Because don't you know this limbo is never ending? I don't think there's a resolution to strive for, just company in the oblivion. Each time there will be that loose strand of overgrown fringe, an alert nipple and its metallic ring, or maybe your tongue poking out the way it does when you're concentrating. Whatever it will be, the KLEINE will strike. What we are all waiting for is for that someone who will pick it back up. My limbo partner, I want it to be you. I know it's a conversation put off for a later date, but in the meantime, the possibility of you resides in every decision I make. Is it vice versa? Currently, a linen cloth skims my naked thighs. Layers of terracotta plates mirrored, ascending cutlery working its way in. I find myself laying a table for a guest I'm unsure will arrive. Is this even the right time? Is it the time difference? Am I in the future whilst you're hours behind? Catch up! Watch me on demand! I guess I worry that we will poke the cake before it has risen. That at your noon and my night, or your night and my morning, our fingers may sink into the absorbent batter instead of lightly stroking its surface, leaving a deep crevice with no icing thick enough to hide it. My back is arched, my legs akimbo. You will find me in this eternal limbo.
The first thing I do when I wake up, after I've done a wee and checked my emails and Twitter, is take my pills. 7 in the morning, 4 at night, plus a vitamin D gummy. I used to hate swallowing vitamin pills because they're so huge. Then I discovered vitamin gummies. Orange or raspberry flavour. There's nothing like eating a sweet before breakfast and still feeling you're really nailing self-care. Rachel's always up first because she's got a kid, so she shouts, "Fennel, pills," on the way to the loo, like I'm still a child. Rachel's the oldest, you could probably tell. That's her you can hear in the background. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Every morning. Ruby, who's only a year younger than Rachel, but looks and acts 10 years younger, usually makes me breakfast because she's dead keen on cooking. She applied for break-off 3 times. And once she even went to London for an audition, but they said she was too shy. She took her flute with her, in case they wanted her to perform the flute in the bake-off audition. Ruby's a bit silly sometimes. Faith is the one who does the actual medical stuff. She's an oncologist. Typical middle child. Mum and Dad were dead proud when she got into medical school. They wanted her to be a GP, and obviously she thought about pulmonary medicine, but she said she was sick of all that. albuterol inhaler, nasal rinse, nasal spray. Then I finish with physio. This was Roy's favourite song. God, I haven't told you about Roy yet. Roy's my brother. My twin, actually. When we were born, Roy weighed 9 pounds 4 ounces and me 3 pounds 10 ounces, and they put me in an incubator, while Mum and Dad were able to take Roy home from the hospital straight away. By the time I came home, Roy was already driving, and he was like, "Who the hell is this?" I always used to say he was such a fat fuck he tried to eat me in the womb, which isn't true. He grew up to be 6'2", and I'm not. We still get asked if we're identical. Roy was the most talented. Everyone talks about the famous Winter Sisters, but Roy was better than all of us. Not that I had any talent. Tone deaf, me. He started on the piano at 3. Dad taught us. Mozart, if you can believe that. Propped us up on the piano stool and away we'd go. Except me, obviously. Do you know that song? Dad found a way to turn it into a duet. He'd play the main bit. Da 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 da. And he'd show us which 2 keys to hold down, and we'd da 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 da. It made us feel so grown up to be playing a duet with a proper professional concert pianist. It was like a Winter family rite of passage. I could just about manage chopsticks. Roy was something else, though. He learned the recorder in school, then the flute, oboe, keyboards, the church organ, believe it or not. Mum and Dad even bought him one for his bedroom. Not with all the pipes and that, though some people do, and they have holes cut in their roofs. By the time he was 16, Roy was moonlighting for the local church. His instructor was the local church organist, so whenever he was away or ill, Roy would step in. Emergency relief organist. One time he was asked to step in for Easter service, and that was the big one, his concert. We all trundled along in our best clothes and clapped after every number, confused as to why everyone was staring at us. I was so proud. I'd left school by then. I was off school a lot anyway, so formal education was never really for me. I didn't do any extra stuff at school, because I always had so many medical appointments. But they took it for granted I'd be in band, because I was one of the Winter siblings. They found me a triangle to bash and stuck me at the back. Like I said, tone deaf. No one saw it coming. Roy was always so healthy. Everyone worried about me so much that when he started getting headaches, no one paid it much attention. Not like in a neglectful way, just he didn't make a fuss. Even towards the end, he never made a fuss. I was the only one who didn't play at his funeral. What was I supposed to do? Bang my triangle at the graveside? They do a concert on the anniversary of his death every year to raise money for cancer research. Rachel organises it and does all the PR and marketing and chivvies everyone along. Ruby makes snacks for everyone and acts as hostess. And Faith just shows up and plays and sings like an angel. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll join in. Might even find a little triangle.
I see a lot of people in my line of work. Some faces more so than others. Sometimes I get to work before the GP doors have opened and I wonder if this is the job for me. But I'm here now and I do my best. I try, anyway. I look at my calendar and notice I'm late for my period. And then I'm distracted by a letter and I open it and the words flash. LACEY Brown. I see her toothy little face flash before my eyes. And I remember her mother. I've thought about that family a lot. I've thought about her, little LACEY Brown, a lot. Losing sleep, losing my mind, going over details of the moments that I was unsure about. Her mother was a strong woman in stature, wide but short. Brown hair kept neat, tidy, almost blow-dried, but I know she didn't have that sort of money. And LACEY was small. Small in stature and hardly any width at all. Her teeth rotten, but hair neat and tidy like her mum. A sickly child. Some people are just born with tragedy in their blood, her mother once whispered. Pardon? I said. Her mother lowered her voice to a smaller whisper to shield her daughter's ears. Some people are just born with tragedy in their blood. And I thought about that sentence for days, weeks. Thought about her eyes as they swam in a misty sea. She unsettles me. But everyone else would say she's amazing. What she does, oh, how she looks after that child. Superwoman, superhero. And sometimes I would catch her in moments off guard, when I was watching and she was not looking. And I listened. Listening's part of the job. She'd come with a story, always a long story, and I recorded it. She didn't know, but I did. She smiled, simpered, and I took it. And I waited for her to come back again and again and again. Her stories varied, some word for word, others contradictory and harder to follow. How are you coping? I asked. She seemed startled. She said she copes. And I wondered if anyone worried about her. I take my tapes. I show them to my boss. He looks concerned. I apologise, but he admits he's been thinking it too. He ponders. We should get her admitted this time. She looks malnourished. Work out a plan. And I was relieved. She'd go to hospital where she'd be safe. And she's been there some time now. I look at my calendar. I should go and get a pregnancy test. On the way I see her, the mum, and she's crossing the road, arms slung low in a hurried little walk. She looks up at me, stops, stares, frowns, then puts her head back down. I go get a test, and then I head back. I think of little LACEY. I shove it in my drawer and I pick up the letter. As I read it, my boss walks in, strides in that overconfident manner as he puts a hand firmly but gently on my shoulder. Little LACEY Brown's dead. Hyperkalemia. Too much potassium in her body. think of her mother. How? Or what do you think? He asks. Do I think of her words? Her hurried little walk? I think it's the mother. I never trusted her. And he nods. And he says yes. I suppose some people are just born with tragedy in their blood.
He picked me up in a bar opposite Brighton Palace Pier, and we'd made it down the whole parade by the time we were done with each other. He said, I've never been with an Irish girl before. And that was the first thing he said to me. Yeah, a real charmer. I had this mane of red hair back then, big, thick, like my accent. Mammy always said she could spot me a mile off, hear me too, and she wasn't half wrong. His room was heavy with the taste of all the women who had passed through his bed. You know, panelled walls and ceilings and a thick purple quilt, maroon ceiling to floor curtains, one yellow bedside lamp and a green rotary phone. I was always very careful to tread lightly, wary that I might somehow leave something of myself with him. I never had any intention to stay with him long. You know, most nights were the same. He would send me to buy drinks for him, for me, for everyone. He would cheer that I could take my drink, that he had found a true KLEINE. And he didn't realise that I quickly swapped my gin mixers for straight lemonade and pocketed the difference. He liked to throw his cash around and I'd pretend I didn't see when he kissed other girls. I lived with him for 7 months and I sent home £25 a week. My sister sent me a cutout of the rocking horse she'd bought for Ronan in the mail. She visited once. We met in the tea rooms at the top of his road and I wanted it to be my treat. I called out to her. And it took her 3 times to notice me. The first thing she said was, "Oh, I didn't recognise you." And as we sat down, she looked me up and down and stared at my shoes. I told her, "I have another pair in a different colour if you want them." And she just politely declined and said she wouldn't have anywhere to wear them. She never asked me where I got the shoes or the money from. I saw him cuddled up next to one of his moths the next night. And I drank every drink he bought me and I didn't pocket the difference and I did feel it the next morning. That afternoon, I bumped into Doug, brother of a boy I used to meet most Thursday mornings and Saturday evenings on Dunmore and Strand. He was one of the only blonde boys in the town. And he came from a family of fiddlers, but he was tone deaf. He planned to propose to me on my 19th birthday. Doug and I walked on the beach. He took his shoes off and stepped into the water. We agreed we hated England just as much as each other. And I asked him if he thought about going back home. He laughed and looked into the tide as the water swelled up around his feet. "Sure, look, it's the same water," he said. "Cold as well."
3 days later, I left my English boy. I took a dress, a pair of heels and his wallet. I hopped town for 4 years. I worked 9 different jobs. And eventually made my way back to Brighton. Back to find the same boy in the same bedroom. The phone was gone. I put the £950 that I owed him and his wallet on his bed. He hadn't even noticed it was gone.
I've been sat here for an hour with these people, stuck in some sort of social coma that's kept me almost 100% silent. It's not their fault. It's that candlestick. It's just so phallic. How am I supposed to concentrate on a conversation with that thing sat there right in front of me? Even when I try and look at something else, my mind is so corrupted that everything I see looks phallic. The forks, the knives, the wine bottles, the tall water glasses, the short water glasses. And then when I'm done with that, I start seeing female bits. I think the female version of phallic is yonic. I've heard fannic too, which I like because it sounds like fanny. The bowls, the flowers, the napkin rings. Napkins can go either way depending on how you fold it. And don't even get me started on the food. Never mind that eating in itself is practically an erotic act with as messy a finish. Nope, there isn't anything on this table that doesn't make me think of sexy bits. I haven't had sex in 7 months, 1 week and 2 days. I would literally do anybody at this table if they just looked at me the right way. I'm trying to be single. Well, I've been banned from not being single. Molly banned me. She's my best friend, has known me forever and is very insistent, very strict. She says I need to get to know myself, to find happiness in being alone. 'Cause, she says, the only way you can achieve true happiness with another human being is to first find true happiness within yourself. I'm beginning to think Molly's a raving idiot. Or she was just trying to encourage me to masturbate more. Not that that helps. Better than nothing, I suppose. But flicking your own bean is never quite as much fun as somebody else doing it for you. I've spent the last 10 years selecting the wrong bean flickers. 10 men in as many years. Every one the one. I've never had a one-night stand. My friend Julie says that that's my problem, that I need to separate sex and connection. Maybe she's right. Maybe I should. I don't know anyone here very well. Maybe I should just pick one of these guys. Have a wild night of passionate and disconnected sex. I just have to make sure I didn't fall in love with him, which might mean picking the one with the most facial hair. But then, where would we do it? Can't go back to my place, I haven't tidied up. And I've got a cat called Biscuit. Biscuit doesn't like new visitors and always seems to know when there's one coming. I once brought home Graham from work, just for a coffee, and there was Biscuit, sat proudly in the corridor, chewing on my lacy thong whilst pawing away at a pair of my old granny pants. Somehow, the little bastard always manages to get into my underwear drawer and claw at the contents. But maybe he's just trying to protect me, warn me off such behaviour. After all, what if my one-night stand turns out to be some psycho stalker killer type? Then he'll know where I live. And I can't go back to his place. What if he hasn't cleaned his sheets? Men can be so rubbish at things like that. Or what if he's got some freaky flatmate who likes to sit up all night listening to you at it? Oh, nah. doesn't work. No, it has to be real with somebody who's sweet and friendly, charming. Like Simon, my personal trainer. He's definitely interested, but he's remarkably similar to Lucas, my 8th boyfriend. They both got that same bouncy puppy dog quality and the ability to treat their bodies as a temple. I'm pretty good at not making the same mistakes twice. I don't keep dating the same types of guys over and over again, expecting a different result. Unlike my sister, Suze, who literally only dates stand-up comedians. My first boyfriend, Julian, was very serious, a bit emo, into Coldplay and moping. He dumped me because dating was too emotional. Then Colin, who was very hipster, only ever went to gigs for bands that nobody else had ever heard of, dumped me because he was too young to commit. Andy was one of the lads. Weekends were pubs and football. We actually talked about getting married. I even bought a Liverpool football shirt and learnt how to drink pints. And we were kind of perfect together. Until he decided to start getting blowjobs from Jenny Shilton. Then off to university. First year there was Mike, who was studying English like me. He was smart and witty, well dressed, very posh, and just took me out all the time. And it turns out, gay. Heartbroken, I plunged into second year with Craig, an actor, who was kind of sweet and very flirtatious, which would have been fine if it was just with me, but he was always looking for that next big love. Usually his co-star in some shitty Fringe production I've been forced to sit through. Then final year was Tim, the self-confident law student. Not typically good-looking, but charming. Would proclaim his love to me daily, but just didn't trust me. Was convinced I was having an affair with Mike from first year, which obviously I wasn't. Dumped me for it anyway. Then I moved here, leaving my past failures behind me, determined to hone my selection process to perfection. Immediately failed to follow it through by allowing an out-of-work artist, Jeremiah, to move in with me. Jeremiah. Oh, he was handsome and passionate, the best sex, and a complete scrounger. But he called me his muse. And then one day, he was gone. I don't know where to, just disappeared. Probably found himself some new muse who'd pay his rent. And that brings us to Lucas, number 8, who I met when I was working on reception at a gym. Lucas spent more time looking at mirrors than he did me, and commented far too many times on how tight my jeans looked. The relationship and the job expired around the same time. I reckon he's only after my staff discount. Then I got a job at a museum where I met Charlie, bookish and serious, quiet and calm, dull as a bucket. I could never get him to go out anywhere. We eventually parted ways on the basis I was too exhausting, or shallow, or something. The job lasted at least. Last year was all about Christopher. Christopher Markton, 28, tall, fluffy blonde hair, green eyes, smiled like it was a private smile, you know? We met at Starbucks. There are more romantic places, I suppose. I'd been waiting 15 minutes for a tall, skinny chai latte. He was waiting for a gingerbread latte. It was Christmas time. And we just got chatting. That was it. Nothing happened. Then I saw him there again and again and again until we finally decided to accept serendipity's hand and go on a date. Everything was so easy with him. On our 1-year anniversary, he asked me to marry him. I said no. It wasn't that I didn't love him, it was just, it'd only been a year. What did we really know about each other? Surely you need more time than that to decide you love somebody forever. Anyway, that pretty much ruined things. He felt embarrassed. I felt, I don't know. He thought I meant never. I didn't mean never. He said I was stringing him along, and I started to feel like he was trying to force me to say yes. Marry me or we break up. So we broke up. Probably for the best. He didn't really love me. I know that deep down. He just got carried away, like I usually do. How do I keep picking the wrong men over and over again? I mean, I'm running out of different types to try. Well, guess I'll keep the celibacy thing going. At least until I feel happy again. I mean, after 10 completely different men, you've got to start to accept that maybe it's not your selection process that's the problem. That maybe it's you. That there's something so inherently wrong with you that no matter what type of guy you go for, they're never gonna love you. And when they do, you go running from it. Like a twat. So, guess you better get used to being alone. Being happy with yourself. And your cat. I wonder if anybody would notice if I took that candlestick home.